want to do as much as we can to support Ukraine.
British volunteer and EOD technician Chris Swampy Garrett was unfortunately killed while clearing a minefield in the Kharkiv region. Chris was a legend here in Ukraine, having been involved since the early days of the ATO in 2014. Today I'll be speaking with people who knew Chris throughout his journey here in the hopes of better understanding the man and the Ukrainian hero, Chris Swampy Garrett.
The first person I'll be speaking with today is Trinu, a dedicated volunteer from Estonia who's been working in Ukraine for the last few years. She was a close friend of Chris and knew him on a deep personal level. She's currently out on a mission right now, so we'll be talking to her over a video call.
Me and Chris, we actually met through Twitter, like a lot of volunteers are meeting, and we connected immediately. We had like a good connection, good talk about his work, about my work. Now it's a year, a year, like a strong connection. He was funny. We were sharing like memes, all the time in Instagram, and I'm telling that if someone will see those, we both will go to the jail probably. He was actually caring, kind, very loving family guy. He loved his fiancée, his kid a lot. He was talking all the time about them. He was there for me all the time when I needed. We had this tradition that when I was in Kiev, that every time basically I was trying to go to his base and we were just talking over our life, drinking wine, and he was cooking. Because he was all the time like, come here is a spare bed for you. We have food. You're all the time welcome. And when he was doing his training, he was so professional with the guys. Like every guy looked like him and he listened to him very carefully. And he cared a lot about Ukraine. He don't want now when he was a family man that some kid will step on a mine, or something will happen with children. His motivation was just like to clear the land for the next generation, I think. Just doing everything for others. He and his team are doing the first response. They were also training and still training like military about EOD and even civilians. I hope someone was smart enough to at least video record some of his training, because you will never get this kind of knowledge back, what he had. And he did me just be kind to your friends and be there for your friends and do like normal checkup with your friends, Hey, how are you? Is everything okay? That's what he did.
If you could say one last thing to Chris, what would it be?
I miss you, idiot, already now. Our last conversation was on the same day when he died. So it's kind of hard. I still wish that, as I wish that he would call me and tell me that, hey, stop crying like a baby. And will give me so much shit for being so emotional, and will tell me like, come over and let's have wine and let's laugh together and let's listen to stupid music and let's go for a round trip. You never know when is the last time when you will see someone. That's why I'm trying to at least make every meeting with my friends. We are now trying to make photos together, just for the memories to have, even if those are silly photos or whatever. Because you never know when it's the last time when you're seeing someone.
Next up are Rachel and Michael. Rachel is the founder of Protect a Volunteer, a platform that raises funds to support military and humanitarian volunteers in Ukraine. Michael is part of Task Force 31, an organization focused on providing critical training, guidance, and equipment to strengthen Ukraine's defenses. Both knew Chris through their work and collaborated with him closely in a professional capacity.
We had a training going on with probably about 120 Ukrainian soldiers who we were, trying to outfit with all of this equipment. And at the drop of a hat, Chris was like, I will come, I will help, bring our trucks. And him and his team showed up at our apartment just down the street, actually, and helped us to load everything, drove over crack of dawn to our training polygon, helped us distribute. That's just who he was. Like, always said yes, always looking for other ways to help. He was an example to a lot of us. Like, he was the OG. Like, he'd been here, at 2014. Most of us had come in 22. I mean, I think Chris had a really profound sense of responsibility having the experience that he has and the understanding of, you know, the job that he was doing, and he felt that he was, you know, best fit to be out there doing it. Chris's contribution, I think, is going to be lasting for a long time, because it's that force multiplication that, you know, people like to talk about using that buzzword, but he really did train up a lot of Ukrainian and you know, Westerners who were looking to increase their mine awareness, whether that was civilians or people serving in the military. So I think that will have a really long and lasting impact. You know, watching Chris and all of the, you know, struggles that he's gone through is, you know, something that a lot of us have also experienced in terms of just the perseverance to keep going. I mean, he was very resilient, you know, he never gave up. When he created Prevail, I think that, you know, he really did build something meaningful and lasting, and hopefully that, you know, it can continue without him.
He really knows his stuff. Like, if you asked him any question on EOD, he knew it. He could explain, he was a real person who could actually explain to what all the equipment was, what it does, what he was doing with it. It was just, this was an expert. He came along and would go and meet with them and wanted to go on the ground and meet with them in person to know exactly what their needs were of what they were doing with EOD, because it wasn't just cookie cutter training he was doing for everybody. He wanted to know the type of terrain they were working in, what were the mission sets, who were the people on the team, what was their experience, and then he was adapting the training to all of them. That was pretty impressive. I think there's going to be thousands of Ukrainians who are alive because of him, because it's not just the work that he did individually. You know, he cleared mines across the country, but he trained, I don't even know the total, lots of Ukrainians on how to do proper mine clearance, trained a lot of the people fighting here on how to identify mines. The medical work that he set up through his organization. We'll never be able to count the number of people who are actually going to either be alive or are going to be prevented from serious injury through what he did. Dangers like the radiation from Chernobyl, it gets you eventually, and I think EOD is a bit like that. It's an extremely dangerous job, and the people who do it are just taking a risk the rest of us won't take.
The last person I'm speaking with today is James, a former EOD tech who trained under Chris while serving in the Ukrainian military. James offers a unique perspective on who Chris was, not just as a person, but as a leader and a soldier.
Chris was probably one of the first dudes, probably like the third or fourth guy in the Legion I met. I went down to Kramatorsk. I was on my brother's team, and they were out on ops, and I was sort of sitting it out because I was new to country, and I was hanging out at the old garage in Kramatorsk, and Swampy's there just, you know, like doing his thing, prepping for a mission. And it's like my first day in Kram, this massive explosion goes off in the distance, like shakes the wall, and dude just drops everything, and like never met him before, haven't had a conversation. He's like, you, come with me. And like grabs his med bag, jumps in the truck. I'm sat in the back like, this is like a fucking movie, bro. And we go straight there, and I was just like, damn, this dude, like, you know, initially I thought, man, like this guy must have done some like serious time in the Brit Mill, because like composure and like the way he went about it, like it was quite impressive. And then obviously after that, like introduced myself, and he was like, yeah, no, never served in the Brit Mill actually. I've just been here since 2014, like doing my thing. I was like, oh, wow, like, you know, it's pretty impressive. We bonded a lot because I would also speak to him a lot about, you know, how he deals with munitions or with EOD tasks, and sort of comparing that to how you're taught in the Brit Mill. And obviously he didn't have that experience of being taught, you know, a way that we do it. And for the most cases, you know, like the way he did it was so much better. We bonded a lot over that, you know, just hitting each other back and forth with, you know, what would you do in this situation? What would you do in that situation? And like I say, I learned, you know, so much from him. The guy heard an explosion, you know, and every time he did, like without even like a second of thought, he's like, med bag on, let's go find that impact, let's see if people need our help. The first piece of advice he told me was, I was wearing a Canadian smock and like a jacket, and he immediately was like, don't wear that because you'll get shot. And that stuck with me, and actually, funnily enough, like a year later, like someone came wearing a Canadian smock, and I got to say like, hey, you don't want to wear that, bro, you know, like passing on that advice. But, you know, his main sort of aspect when he was training us was always that comparison between like time on task and like how safe you can make it, and sort of re-taught me how to assess that, because in the British Army, safety is the number one priority, and if you have to take twice as long on a task to complete it safely, then you should. But obviously with this war, that changed things, and and it's hard to come away from like 6-7 years of that mentality in the British Army and then instantly change it. But it's something that Swampy really sort of taught out of me, helped me sort of like understand a better way to assess a potentially dangerous situation where maybe you have to do it quicker, but is that going to make it safer or more dangerous? And you've got to think about all the threats, not just what's in front of you, that mine. You've got to think about the other factors like drones, artillery, like maybe the Russians start pushing, and that guided me into the rest of my sort of career in Ukraine. There's a massive hole in the sort of the demining efforts now, and a hole in the ability to pass on the knowledge that he had. Even though he wasn't in the Legion, he was still mentoring and teaching EOD techs that still are serving on the front line, and now we've lost that. We've also lost someone that represented a lot for Western volunteers in Ukraine. We've lost someone that really demonstrated the love that a lot of Westerners have here. I think really he just wanted to do something with his life where at the end of it he could say, like, I have provided to a better world. I have given something that could be a better world now. And of course he did. He did 10 times over, 100 times over, so
Chris made an impact on so many people here in Ukraine, and I'm sure his legacy will live on with Prevail. One day when the time is right, I know his flag will be here amongst the other heroes of Ukraine. This is Corey reporting from Kyiv.